Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So I want to talk about The Walking Dead Season 2 Episode 3, and I actually really want to focus on some of the outbreak stuff here. So obviously we learned of Genet's backstory in Episode 3, and I just want to talk about, I guess, some disappointments I have with that, at least in terms of some of the reveals that we didn't get, and talk about also what I really liked about Genet's backstory reveal, and get into some of the stuff with Isabel as well, because obviously we got a reveal for her backstory in Season 1, right? So yeah, before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. I will be doing a Q&A video on Wednesday, so if you do want to take part in that Q&A, go and join the Discord. The server name is Appetite for the Dead. The link should be in the description of this video. I will be asking for some questions today, and then I'll eventually get to recording that on Wednesday. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But yeah, so Genet's backstory obviously was revealed in Episode 3, and it really taught us a lot about the character. You know, I think that she was somebody that became, I guess, very, very independent. You know, she had to learn to become independent, and the apocalypse brought that out of her, right? Like, it actually made her, I would say, a stronger person, I guess, as it does, you know, everybody. Well, the people who are going to survive end up becoming stronger. If you don't adapt and you don't become stronger, then you're not going to survive, right? And I think that's why there's a connection there between Carol and Genet. You know, I think they're very relatable, and especially with everything happening at the nest and everything as well, you know, I think that you can see how people just sort of cope with, I guess, how hard things can be sometimes. And, you know, Carol and Genet, you know, for them, it's very, very similar. And we saw that, you know, she really had no power beforehand. She was just, you know, she was a janitor at the place where the Mona Lisa is, and you know, they were told to stay there. They locked down the whole place, I guess, basically once everything was happening. And so she was stuck there, which makes sense. You know, there's a lot of really amazing art there and stuff. You're going to protect a lot of that, right? And so obviously that was like locked down. And so they were just trapped there. But then I guess eventually, you know, they were able to escape. And it seems like from what we actually saw there anyways, again, they don't really say how she got to having a lot of power, but I'm assuming that she basically became the leader of that group and probably helped everybody out there. And then I think from there, eventually just got a lot more power. And I don't know if it's because the nest had something already happening, and so Pouvoir was like, you know what, we'll give you something else, because maybe she disagreed with the nest's, you know, point of view on everything. Though I will say, I think the Union of Hope was, you know, created as a response to Pouvoir, right? So that's not exactly what happened, I guess. So Pouvoir did start first, but we didn't necessarily see, I guess, the creation of Pouvoir. And so we know Genet's backstory, we know exactly what happened to her in the very early days, and we saw some of her mindset to becoming a leader, but we don't know how Pouvoir started. We don't know why she decided to create superwalkers. And I think that's the one thing that I find very frustrating here, is that we're still not getting that. And that's kind of my concern with a lot of, you know, Gimple's storytelling. I know he's not the showrunner of the show, but he overall sees the Walking Dead universe, right? Like, he sort of runs everything and all of that. And I just feel like with this story here, there could have been way more of a focus there. Like, they are focusing on some of the character stuff, and that is very cool. And again, there's still 3 more episodes left, and so maybe episode 5 or 6, probably not in 4, because it seems like that's going to be the battle episode, but in 5 or 6, maybe they get into that a little bit more. But I just think that, you know, some of the Superwalker stuff, it's so interesting. How are they creating this? Like, we don't know a lot of that. Like, I want to know the explanation behind that. Like, how did she think of that? Was it just a couple of scientists that like came to her and was like, yeah, we have all of this or whatever? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much there that I'm just like, I want to know more of that. Or did she decide to come up with that? Was she like, you know what? We need to use these walkers as weapons. And so can we make them, you know, way more enhanced, and can we control them? Because obviously normal walkers we can't control unless we have like herds of walkers, and we sort of lead them through like what? Sound, I guess, basically, which is what everyone does. So obviously she's going to think of something different here. And obviously if you're writing the show, you're going to try to think of something different and a little bit more exciting. So yeah, super walkers, really cool. But like, again, in the World Beyond Season 2 post-credit scene, like, we saw Dr. Jenner there. Maybe that was sort of the explanation already right there, right? Like, that was just sort of, you know, telling us that Dr. Jenner was aware that there were variants, right? Like, not all walkers are the same. Like, there's other walkers, you know, and different places that obviously are super walkers, or there's burners or whatever. And so that's what I mean, though. That's what's really interesting about this, is that he was communicating. And again, you have to go based off of what they said in that scene specifically, because Dr. Jenner was talking about these variant cohorts that are, you know, in France. And so he had questions about it. He was kind of curious. He was just like, you know, like, you were saying that there's these variants, or I can't remember exactly what he says. But again, Dr. Jenner died very early on in the apocalypse. It was like 2 or 3 months at the absolute most. And so whatever Genet was planning here in terms of all of that, that was around that point there. And it probably was the burners. It probably wasn't, like I'm assuming that in that scene when that woman has that laptop, that's not happening at the same time. That might be years later, right? But she just has this laptop. She found all this stuff for I don't know what reason. Why does she have it? And so Dr. Jenner was asking questions, and it was probably an old file or an old video from, I guess the very first month or two of the apocalypse, which means that at that point there was already sort of variants out there, right? Which I think could have been a reference to the burners, which we did sort of learn in episode 3 that the burners are failed experiments, which was a theory I had like last year or whatever. I was really wondering, like, are they failed experiments from the Superwalkers? We learned in episode 3 that that's what it is, right? Like one of the characters there says that, there's rumors that these burners are like failed experiments or whatever. So I don't remember the exact line, but yeah, so that's really cool. Like I like the explanation for all of that there. That's awesome. But again, there's still a mystery there as to why Genet decided to, or like when she decided. Maybe she decided very early on after the first like month or two or something, though I don't see that being, that accurate. And I don't think Genet would be a part of that early on, which means that scientists, a part of something else, were doing this earlier on and then eventually reached out to Genet because she became very powerful. And so that's how she decided to start using superwalkers, right? And so maybe, there's another entity out there, another organization or group out there of scientists that were exactly doing this here. Maybe they're more not that organized, I guess, so they wouldn't be like this official organization out there. But that's what's kind of frustrating about this, is that there's missing pieces here in terms of how all of this connects, and the show focuses on the character side to things, Genet becoming a leader and all of that, instead of a lot of the interesting stuff in terms of the Superwalkers and all that really made season 1 really, really, like, honestly great. I really enjoyed Genet's backstory. It was awesome. I really love character stuff like that. I have no complaints with any of that there. It's just that we're not getting the Superwalker origin story that I thought we were going to be getting, because I'm assuming for season 3, we're not going to be getting Superwalkers anymore. They'll probably create a different type of walker. It's not going to be the fast running ones. They'll probably be different in some way, because it seems like, the spinoffs do like to, kind of have the variants, though the ones who lived didn't really have a variant. Dead City sort of did anyways with the Walker King, although it was a little different because that was a walker that was, there was a bunch of walkers sort of formed together, right? But I just think that we need way more of an explanation out there, and that's what fans really like. And I think that's my concern overall right now with where The Walking Dead is going, is that we're not getting enough information overall, right? Like, it just feels like in this last year, literally just 2024, like the Ones Who Live gave us a lot of information, but not really a lot of information on like the triple P card and a lot of that. And that now with the Superwalkers, there's not really a lot here. And so I know Gimple is talking like, yes, he has the explanation for a lot of these things. Like he said that the triple P card, he has that story written. It's like on a shelf or something like that. And it will be told soon. And again, it's been years. I don't know when this stuff's going to be actually written. I have honestly totally forgot about the triple P card. I don't really, like, if there's a reference to it, I'll bring it up, but I'm not that excited about it because I don't think you'll ever bring it up. But when it comes to the Superwalker stuff, this is something that, like, I'm concerned about because this storyline is going to be ending very, very soon. Or maybe it doesn't, but I'm assuming that it's going to by episode 6 because they're going to Spain for season 3. So maybe it's one of those things where it ends in a way where season 2, like, maybe the Superwalkers are still out there. Maybe Madame Genet is dead, but the Superwalkers are still out there. And so they can somehow come back into the story in season 3, but they're just forced to leave to go to Spain because they can't stay in France. Like, everyone's out to get them, right? So I could see something like that playing out. That would make a lot of sense. But yeah, that's one of my concerns when it comes to the Superwalker origin story. Like, I just think that there needs to be a lot more there, and we're not really necessarily getting that. Like, no one's asking the really important questions. And that's the one thing that I thought Carol would ask about, and she did, like, she actually did in episode 3, and she's like, and so why are you creating the Superwalkers? I don't remember exactly what she said, but she basically asked why, and so Genet did say why, right? But there just needs to be way more of an explanation there, I think, overall. Like, how did all this happen, and like, why did she decide that? Maybe scientists came to her with, some of their research and all that, and so that's what happened there. That makes a lot of sense, but then I want some more backstory on the scientists and when they started this and why they're going to America specifically to get walkers. Like, again, there's still some mystery there. I don't know why they're doing that. So I have some frustrations when it comes to the Superwalkers this season because there needs to be way more explanation there. And maybe that's more of a reveal coming up in the finale. I could see them really waiting until then, right? Like, maybe, at first they're more explaining a lot of this here, but yeah, in terms of the character stuff, I think that the characters that they are highlighting, in this show, it's working really well. Madame Genet's story is great. Carol's story is great. Daryl's story is great. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure why Gimple or David Zabel aren't really getting into some of this stuff yet, but I mean, again, we'll have to wait and see where the finale goes. I think that we still could get that, but this is still going to be a frustration that, if we're not at that point in the finale where we have an explanation on a lot of this, then yeah, I'm definitely going to be really disappointed in that, because I think that as exciting as that was, that's literally all it was. Like, the Super Walker storyline was created just to build a lot of excitement in the story. They kind of explained it, but not really. I have way more questions about their origins and all that. And again, you're coming up with something really crazy like this, like as an idea that you're going to have fans, really, I guess, get on board with, and then you don't really explain it too much and get into the origins, and so it's not that grounded into the story, and so it just kind of seems a little insane. I don't know, that's how I feel about it, but again, that's more my frustrations with the Super Walker storyline. But when it comes to, the Genet backstory, going back to the outbreak, they do that stuff so good, and I really honestly was a fan of that. Isabel's backstory as well, I was a really big fan of that in season 1. That was really cool to see, because we learned a lot of who Isabel was, and that's why she became such a great character in season 1. Isabel in season 2 is still great, but she's not as great as she was in season 1. I feel like they're kind of ignoring her in season 2 quite a bit. But in season 1, she was so great. Honestly, a really amazing character. Her backstory episode was probably one of the best moments of that season. So, they do those moments really great. Genet's backstory was so fun to watch, and it really built up her character again in this episode, where Genet is such an awesome character this season. But the Super Walker stuff, if they just got into that as well, it would create so much excitement there. And, you sort of create a standard in terms of your story writing, like going forward when you introduce a new idea. If we've already seen from previous seasons that whenever you introduce a cool idea like Super Walkers, you always fully explain it, then whenever you create new ideas or like a newer Super Walker or a newer variant or whatever, we're all going to get excited because we all know that you're going to fully explain this and get into the origin and all of that, right? And so it's exciting, but I think that's the one thing that's kind of a little disappointing right now. Is just I want to see more from the Super Walker stuff, because we're getting that with the backstories for Genet and Isabel, but yeah, just not that one part. But yeah, anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. I just wanted to talk about some of the frustrations and concerns I have about the Super Walkers, but also talk about, what I really liked about Madame Genet's backstory, because that was really great, and honestly a really cool moment to actually happen this season. I'm happy that we actually have that here, because now I feel like she's actually here and a part of the story. It felt like she wasn't really the villain of the season. Episode 3 really brought her back, where it's like, no, she is the villain. She is outside the nest now, and yeah, she's a scary villain. So anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. Definitely post all your thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.